welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. Today we are really lucky to have Guy Finley here, and he is talking about The Secret of Your Immortal Self, which is his newest book. Welcome, Guy.
Hi, CJ.
This book was perfectly timed, I think. I literally just had a conversation with my husband about a lot of the things that are in this book. And what I thought we could do is talk a little bit about love and how it relates to the immortal self. But before we begin, tell us, for folks that aren't familiar with what the term is, immortal self, tell us what that means.
Uh, in this book, I am highlighting, outlining, if it were, um, the existence of a part of us that most of us have completely forgotten exists, except for those rare moments where either we're confronted by the passing of something that we love, or some shock comes and suddenly we wish that we weren't so attached and oriented to things in passing time.
Mm-hmm.
The immortal self refers to a part of us that understands that everything that comes to us in life is already, if you will, a part of us, in terms of, I like to say that lessons ride in on the back of events,
Mm-hmm.
and that these lessons exist as a form of grace, a way in which to introduce to us these parts of ourself that is already timeless, so that then what seems to be the disparate event, the unwanted moment that we usually push away for fear of its meaning, suddenly has an entirely different meaning, because we understand we are being asked to meet a part of ourselves we have yet to meet
Mm-hmm.
through the event.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we realize, hey, you know what? The the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. That moment is the teacher, and what it is trying to introduce us to is something that we have forgotten lives in us already, as well as the solution to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what's immortal. All of us have had moments where suddenly we go, oh my God, how could have I been so stupid
Mm-hmm.
as to not see that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it isn't that we suddenly saw something new. We remembered the part of ourselves that always knew that. This is what is immortal in us. Love is immortal in us. We don't create it. Wisdom is immortal in us. We don't create it. We enter into a relationship with these timeless characters that are just waiting for us to take our place in them.
So then any interaction that I have with someone is perhaps a opportunity to awaken love,
Absolutely.
wisdom, hatred. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be good things, right?
No, no, that's the beauty of it. In this book, I write about um, how relationships, no matter what they are, let's say I'm drawn to a night sky, I'm drawn to the ocean, I'm drawn to a mountain, whatever it may be. I'm drawn to these things because when I am close to them, meaning I see them, suddenly I'm experiencing a quality or a character in myself that I was asleep to the moment before.
Mm-hmm.
So that this relationship reveals to me these aspects of myself that already exist, and that these mountains, oceans, wild horses merely go, hey, guy, look, this is already a part of you.
Right.
So we love those relationships where we see things that are beautiful and
Right.
powerful and loving.
Right.
But as you hinted, the same exact truth holds with relationships in which life awakens in us fears and worries and doubts.
Mm-hmm.
Life is doing it for the same purpose. I have a saying when it comes to these unwanted moments. The wise man or woman says, oh, thank you. I didn't know that about myself.
Mm. I
Because
love that.
now I get to see that all the moment didn't create this unwanted character. It revealed this nature that was already there by that event.
Right.
Now I have a chance to bring the light of a new awareness into that event and into myself, so that revelation leads to integration if I don't push it away by unconscious resistance.
Yeah, you know, the reason why I was smiling is I was getting a little bit irritated with a friend who I described as irresponsible. You know, you're
Right.
so irresponsible. You know, I'm judging this person. And what did I do last night? But I skipped a dinner event that I was invited to, a very, very special occasion, and I did not. I put it incorrectly in my calendar, so I was a no-show to an event that this friend of mine was expecting me to be in. So
How
while I'm smiling,
responsible of you.
I know while I'm smiling as I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true. Here I am casting judgment about how this other person is irresponsible. How come they just can't put it in their calendar and figure it out? And
Yeah.
what do I do the very next day but take even something way worse than what what my friend I was mad about was doing. I didn't even show up to this big fancy event. There was dinner, everything.
You know
And
what's so beautiful right now is that we are talking about the real source of love,
mhm,
because when I actually finally, and God help all of us to do so, understand that the only difference there is between you and me is what I have yet to see about myself that's in you. And
mm,
that's the only difference between you and me,
mhm,
is that you have yet to understand what's in me. But you and I share the same consciousness, the same heart. It's just that because of conditioning, circumstances, development over time, we are at different levels in this awareness of ourselves.
mhm,
But the more aware a man or a woman becomes of their own nature, the more they instantly understand that the other person is merely exhibiting either what they have yet to see about themselves or their ability to be compassionate towards that person because they understand, hey, I've been there. I'm certainly not going to rub it in. I'm not going to say I've been there, but by God,
yeah,
I know this pain. I know this irresponsibility. I
mhm,
know this fear because I have lived it.
yeah.
That's love.
Yeah. And I
We
think what's
take it.
interesting is self-love because I did not. Do you know what I did for I was tuning into my frequency, so I was reading some other book about frequency, and it's like my frequency is like negative, or if there was a low vibration, that's where it was. And I thought, how interesting. I am sitting here bashing and blaming and hating myself because of, it wasn't a malicious, intentional thing. It was just an innocent, stupid mistake, right? But I just was bashing myself. So I wasn't bashing
I
I just
understand.
started
I
turned into
love this.
self-hatred.
I love this conversation because so first I bash what I see as irresponsibility in someone else
Right.
because I haven't seen the potential or the activity of that nature in myself.
Hmm.
And then I bash that nature in myself as if I'm different than the nature I'm bashing.
Right. That's true. It's
And again,
yeah.
an opportunity for an integration.
Yeah.
Because the more clearly I see that the things that I despise or resist in other human beings, I only do so because I have yet to awaken to them in myself.
Hmm.
And when I really awaken to them in myself, I'm going to understand, hey, the wise thing to do is not to resist my own consciousness, but to let it be revealed to me so that in the revelation an integration can occur by which I realize I must, in one respect, forgive this nature, understand its presence, and not take part in punishing others for it or punishing myself because it's still active and unconscious in me.
Right. And then it's just a nature, like you said, instead of bashing it and hating it and others going back to what you said earlier, we are all one, and therefore we all will be irresponsible at one point or another. And I've noticed that don't cast stones at this other person when in fact you have that same nature inside of
Absolutely.
you.
It's just that these aspects of ourselves are still in the dark.
Hmm.
And to add to what we've said, that in the moment the event comes along and the event reveals to me these aspects of myself that are in the dark, then the event, the lesson that it brings is actually a form of light if I will choose to use the event to produce the new awareness of myself that it has come to bring.
Yeah. And I think the light for me is next time someone is irresponsible, go, well, they probably have, it's an innocent mistake. Sometimes these things happen. It happens
Yeah,
to me, it happens to them. Let it go.
well, it doesn't mean that I don't bring it to their attention if it's important.
Hmm.
It's just that I'm not negative about it.
Yes, that's a key thing, isn't it? It's the energy that you bring into it if you talk to them about it. Like, I understand. Yeah.
And I understand. Or would you please explain what happened here? Because you hung me out to dry, and I
Right.
need to know that you know that. I'm not going to punish you for it. Why? Because I didn't punish myself for it first.
Hmm.
No one can be negative about anything, CJ, without first resisting the condition they blame that negativity on.
Mm.
And in the end, the condition is always an aspect of our own consciousness that we are not aware of yet.
Hmm.
So that we actually are resisting the
Mm.
revelation of ourself and blaming the other person for the pain of us dividing ourselves up and denying the fact that something in me needs to be enlightened.
Yes. Oh, I love that. So when I could have an event like this, I could say, thank you. Thank
Thank
you and bless you for having me understand the irresponsible nature within myself and to seek more compassion for those people that, that I've been judging
look at the
incorrectly.
beauty look at the beauty of the circle here.
Yeah.
Number one, love thine enemies.
Hmm.
What did Christ mean, love thine enemies? Who or what is my enemy? There is only one enemy for all of mankind, womankind, and that is what I have yet to discover about myself.
Mm.
Because what does not want to be discovered resists revelation.
Mm.
And what resists revelation is actually rejecting the possibility of integration or the act of love in the universal conscious sense of the meaning.
Mm. Mm. So, and this actually puts in a new light in terms of why are relationships important to us, right? If I were living in a deserted island, I would not be invited to a fancy black tie event, right? I wouldn't be going to these kind of things.
And
So why?
one day you may want that.
Yeah, maybe I maybe will want to be in a deserted island, but it's interesting why because it's changed the way I think about relationships too. Because if you think about relationships as just little mirrors of what you haven't necessarily discovered in yourself, it
Right.
changes this whole story that we usually have right around this time, right? It's Valentine's Day, and we ask ourselves, why am I not with someone? What's wrong with me? Or why is this relationship broken? And those things can actually be, I think, something that I haven't discovered in myself as well.
In very much so in part. Because look, going a little bit deeper now into this idea of an immortal love. In the opening of the book, I quote a man, Vernon Howard, uh, and a saint actually who died in the early 90s that I had the great fortune of working very closely with for nearly 15 years,
Oh, wow.
uh, co directed his foundation while he was alive. And he's the one that actually started me writing back in the early 80s. He
Oh,
told me,
neat.
I want you to go write a book. He told me, I said, I don't know how to write a book. He said, write a book. Anyway, I quote him. He said that it is wise to seek immortality because time defeats all other ambition. And we can apply that beautiful statement to our understanding of love. Because what is our heartache in any given moment, whether it's the loss of a possession or a person, other than, if we can see it, use the event properly, a revelation
Mm.
that I had vested my identity, my sense of self, in something that there was nothing wrong with loving I have a wife. I've been married for 35 years. I
Mm-hmm.
love her to death. I wouldn't know what to do without her.
Mm-hmm.
But she is, to me, an embodiment. She is a representation of an order of love through which, not that it won't kill me when she passes, but through which I'll see, you know what? Look, Patricia's gone when it happens, but my love isn't, which means that my love was there before she came.
Mm-hmm.
Love is living inside of us. Our relationships are the way in which we learn to relate to it through different orders of our own being. Ultimately, there's no difference between what is immortal in us and the love that gave it birth. So all of these relationships serve to teach us. First, do you remember loving? I loved a pair of tennis shoes when
Mm-hmm.
I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I came home one day. My mother had thrown them away.
Oh no!
I know it sounds stupid, doesn't
Yeah.
it? But I suffered. I suffered. Why? Because I thought somehow who I was connected to my tennis shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I believe that my identity can't be separated from my tennis shoes, then when mom throws out my tennis shoes, I'm going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
If
Mm-hmm.
I believe that my identity is connected to the love of anything, then when the conditions that have created that relationship change, which they must because passing time guarantees it, I'm going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean I didn't love that thing, that person? No. It just means that my love was an immature love,
Hmm.
a yet to be fully developed love that life is saying when it changes the conditions, hey, guy, can I introduce you to a deeper, more eternal love? And I either say, yes, please do, or I go, no, no, I want what I want. I don't want anything else. And that's our choice.
Yeah.
That's the only form of free love there, free will there is, CJ.
But I have to say about that. Had in high school, if I had said, "Hey, listen, guy, here's the thing," I said exactly the same things you said to me about, this is giving you the experience of a deeper love. Let's
Yes.
actually lose these sneakers and get a deeper love. You'd have said like, who are you, lady? I'm still sad about these
Oh,
sneakers, right? I
no,
mean,
no, there's no question
we,
about
we
it.
still have to suffer through whatever it is. Because, like you said, whether it's your wife or the sneakers, you're still going to feel that incredible loss because even though we know at a spiritual level that we will still have love and that a part of us isn't thrown away because those
Of
sneakers are
course,
thrown away, it's
of
still
course.
so hard. I mean, how do you get there? I'm still at the what, your sneakers? How do you get to that point? Because it takes a while, right? It's not just a.
Yes. No, no one is saying that you don't feel loss. I lost my mother. I lost my father. I lost the greatest dog that ever walked the earth.
Mm,
I mean, I was crushed. But one begins to understand that life, real life, again, this is in the book. And again, we're talking about an immortal love. Show me anything that when it passes doesn't pass for the purpose of bringing something new into existence,
mm,
and that what is brought into existence that's new must itself eventually pass, so that yet something new may be born again.
mm,
Now, let's tie this into an unwanted moment. We won't talk about the loss of a love yet.
right.
An unwanted moment comes along. Why? Because I'm attached to something. You can't have an unwanted moment without resisting it. I resist it because, my God, my identity's tied into it. So, to what end resist the moment? Doesn't change the moment.
Mm-mm.
But if I understand, even in a small way, because I've been through innumerable arguments with life, that I might as well throw a marshmallow at a mountain as try to change it, then I start to realize maybe I need to be more willing to see what life is bringing instead of see my resistance to it and justify it through my suffering.
Mm,
So when eventually I fight with life, I still live with the resentment or the regret of something. And then by the grace of God, one day I see, you know what? Really, what I'm hanging on to here is not the person I've lost, not the event, not the possession, but I'm hanging on to a certain sense of myself. And the queer thing here is that in exchange for holding on to this sense of self, it requires that I suffer.
Mm,
So, why would I choose that suffering? No conscious human being will choose to uselessly suffer.
mm-hmm.
And suffering over anything that has passed is useless suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to this. That means, and maybe I see it, the event and the suffering it produced did not mean that somehow I was limited or stupid or undeveloped. It means that I came into that moment with the understanding that I had. The moment has said, Guy, CJ, would you like a new understanding about yourself and these immortal possibilities?
Mm,
Finally, go, yeah, I would. And in that moment, to whatever degree it's true, CJ, the man or the woman who enters into that relationship is not the same level of man or woman who leaves it.
mm,
This is rebirth in the true sense of the spiritual meaning.
mm.
Something new is conceived because we agree to sacrifice what no longer works for us.
Okay, so I'm putting it back to the, I'm looping us back all the way to the heartbreak. Why do we have such heartbreak when we break up in a relationship or someone dies? You know, that's way worse. But I think what I'm hearing you say is because first we go through a suffering, and then if we actually, after we go through that natural amount of suffering, asking ourselves, okay, something left, so something else could come in. You know, the new CJ, the new immortal self is here, right there. If you're willing to look at it and grab onto it, it's there. How do you look on and grab onto it? I mean, it's one thing to, it's almost like at this point it would be a juncture of, at that juncture it would be just a moment of faith. I have a
No,
faith because
no,
Guy
no,
told me
no,
I know that it's going to be there. How do I know it's going to be
no,
there?
no, no, not faith. Look, do I need faith to pull my finger out of a fire?
You're saying it's instinct, it's an instinctual thing, will just
I'm
happen?
saying that just as the body knows better than to hurt itself, your soul knows better than to suffer what is meaningless. Um, let's take from another angle.
Okay.
Is it possible for a human being to know freedom and to be afraid at the same time? Can I be afraid and be fearless at the same time?
I think you can be, but maybe
You
that's the wrong
do.
answer.
So, no, no, well, let's look at it. How can I be afraid that you're going to leave me
Mm-hmm.
physically or emotionally, and at the same time be free in our relationship to be all that you need me to be and I want to be?
Yeah,
My
okay.
fear is going to try to control what you do,
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair. I got it.
right? So anything that we're identified with, by the very nature that sense of self believes, it won't exist happily without you being and doing what I need you to be and do, means that there's always this controlling issue.
Mm-hmm.
There's always this part of me that's trying to make sure things stay pat.
Right.
That means that when anything isn't pat, now I'm filled with resistance to the condition.
Mm-hmm.
That resistance is painful. But we don't experience the suffering of our own resistance because the resistance is always justifying why it's doing what it's doing.
Okay. So in the,
So I am, so here I am. Let's take a simpler example. I'm
yeah,
anxious.
right.
Now, does anxiety hurt?
Yeah, I think it does.
I mean, why isn't anxiety a kind of a fire?
Right.
And yet I keep finding myself in anxious conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because when that anxious nature is suddenly made evident, revealed by the event,
Mm-hmm.
it begins to talk to me. It says, oh, you know what? Oh my God, this is what you've got to do You must immediately make the phone call. You have to get rid of this situation no matter what it takes. And I begin to look at what it is telling me to do, which promises freedom, instead of actually being present to the pain of its presence in me that has always been in me because I've never been liberated from it.
Okay, got it. So you're saying that the pain that I get from a breakup is actually pain that was already there and I've felt it. I felt the pain. I felt the pain that I have right now from the breakup or someone's death, and it's there and it's now been expressed and it's freely to be expressed, and then I can just let it go because it's there.
In a way, the suffering is inherent in any form of identification.
Mm-hmm. I
This
get
is
that part.
ultimately this is ultimately why Buddha said that this world is suffering,
Mm-hmm.
because we are presently living from a consciousness, a divided mind that actually only knows itself by thinking about something, trying to possess a relationship, deriving my sense of self from it.
Mm-hmm.
That's division.
Mm-hmm.
So I am forever in a state, even though I don't know it, of trepidation that things are going to change and what is giving me my sense of self is going to disappear. Now, what am I going to do?
Okay. Yeah, that's a huge insight into relationships.
Oh, man.
That's a huge one, Wei. I'm going to try to see if I can repeat this. So you're saying, and I think it goes back to other parts in your book, but we seek to be whole, and so we're looking for the other person that we feel is going to make us whole. Okay, and then we find that person, and then what that person does is help us get a sense of a fuller self, a self of that we've already had already, but we've forgotten.
Well,
So then when
yeah.
that person goes, we go, oh, now I don't have that person anymore. I'm no longer myself because I've lost
All
this
right, all
essential
right. This
part of
is
myself.
great. This is great. Now let's look at what you just said.
Okay.
I fall in love.
Right?
I fall in love because, as Tom Cruise said, you complete me.
Yeah.
you know, you
Yeah.
know. I didn't know. Um, to start with, I didn't know that I could love like that. I didn't know that I could make a sacrifice like that. I didn't know it was in me. And you, meaning my partner,
Mm-hmm.
have introduced me through this relationship to qualities in myself I would have never even dreamed existed.
Mm-hmm.
So that's perfect. But you see, the quality that you introduced me to in myself isn't there because you're there. You introduced it to me and myself.
Right.
But but I begin to think that the only way I can know this is if you're around.
Ah, oh, that's huge. I just got chills all over. That's really huge.
See, now I'm afraid you're going to do something. I'm going to lose you. I'm afraid I've got to control because if you go away, this beautiful part of myself is going to go away. And incidentally,
Mm,
the more we try to control, the more we push away the very thing. And then that relationship still serves love, the higher love, because now I get to see this part of myself I didn't know was there without you and me trying to control you. So it's
right,
still love either way. It's
right.
revelation in action.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. And it links back to the very first thing that we said, right? The relationships are people trying to draw out things that are inside of us that we didn't even know
Yeah.
existed. And that's why when we're relating to someone, those shoes, or your dog or your mom or your dad or my dad, it's like when you lose those things, you feel like you've lost those aspects of yourself, but they will always be there. And I don't know why I'm obsessed about death, but I think about death because I think about how attached I am to my children and my husband, and so I've put myself through scenarios, future pacing my death, the death of my husband or my kids, and in my highest state, when I really remember, I get to the point where I thought, well, I still loved, and I learned about love, even with if my
Oh,
husband's
no, no.
gone.
Okay, all right. Now listen to me. See, that's all in thought.
Okay.
Love is not a thought. Love has nothing to do with thinking. Nothing. We've already proven this, and boy, I hope the people that are listening and watching can get this with us. When I met my wife, uh, let's say two things. I didn't know that there was a certain kind of beauty that lived in me,
Mm,
a sensitivity.
mm-hmm,
And I also didn't know there was a brute that lived in me.
mm-hmm,
Both, I didn't. Now, did my wife put in this nature that beauty or that brute? Or did she show me that that brute and that beauty have always been, since before I came into a body, the existence of these presences?
mm,
So when she goes, it doesn't mean that they go, because they were there before she, and they will be there after she. And that isn't in thought. That is a living awareness of a dynamic relationship within one's own consciousness, where one gradually, and that's what our work is about, becomes aware of these qualities that no longer need a condition outside of them in order to be evident within us.
mm, mm-hmm. Do you think that's why some people break up too? Because they've already discovered that within themselves.
It may be their paths diverge. Yeah, of
Yeah, so
course.
that I don't really need to be with that person anymore because I've already discovered what I needed to discover
You,
about
again,
myself, and
you
vice
know,
versa, perhaps.
the little girl with the stick horse. One day she's on a stick horse uh, in her backyard, and then a neighbor moves in and has got a real horse. The kid
Right.
goes, "Oh my God, what the heck is this stick horse? I want a real horse." Now,
Mm,
there was nothing wrong with the stick horse, it served its purpose. But now
mm-hmm,
the child is awakened to a dynamic living relationship with a living creature. Now I want that deeper relationship. So
mm-hmm,
naturally, relationships go through these things, including, and I already know you know this, a person begins when they grow up, when they're growing up, boy, I really want this, I really want to do that. And they run this race to get the thing, to get the person. And when they get it, they think to themselves going into the race, well, if I get this, my race is over.
mm-hmm,
But the next thing they know, bang, another starting gun goes off. And now the person or the possession isn't enough. And now I got to run another race. Well, at one day, you say to yourself, I'm running nowhere here.
mm-hmm,
What I'm looking for is not something I'm going to run to. It's something I'm going to awaken to within myself, or it doesn't exist at all. And what is true and beautiful, what is everlasting, is immortal. We are the embodiment of the potential to know this presence in an unending way,
mm-hmm,
incidentally. Even
mm-hmm,
after this body goes, if we have done our work, we will always be aware of and live within that order of ourself that cannot pass.
mm-hmm,
Life, death is not the end of life. That's one of the features of the book. Death is not the end of life, but we are forever going through these mini deaths, worrying all the time, and actually, unfortunately, living out fear instead of living the freedom from fear by understanding whatever comes is going to go, but something within me can remain.
mm. You know, this is somewhat related, but over the last couple years, I've been more conscious about how much of my life is just governed by fear. You know, how many of my actions are not necessarily looking through life through the lens of love, but through the lens of fear. And my sense is that you've gone through this similar journey. Um, how did you make the transition from, or did you? I don't know. Have you gone through a similar journey, and how did you make the journey?
Well, first, the journey never ends,
Okay.
but perfect love casts out fear. Not finding what we can grab onto, protect us from fear, but the understanding that fear, by its nature, cannot exist without identification. Again,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't know if you know the scripture, and it's not necessary because it just happens to be true no matter who says it.
Mm-hmm.
Christ said that one should not resist evil. Now, what does that mean? One should not resist evil. In the original Aramaic, resist not evil translates as follows: do not oppose what opposes you. Do not oppose what opposes you. Now, when I live in fear, I am forever trying to do what? I am forever trying to push away the event that I fear. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So take your two, I don't always do this, but we'll do it. Take your left hand
Okay.
and it'll represent the thing that you fear most, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And life is okay, and all of a sudden, watch, all of a sudden, oh, there's, it appears on the screen,
Right.
oh, there it is. Now, when the thing I fear appears, suddenly, what else appears? The me that doesn't want it.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely.
All right, now, so this me that doesn't want it doesn't exist without the thing it fears, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Now, more than that, what happens when the me that doesn't want the fear comes? I try to push it away. Go ahead, push away your fear, CJ. Push
Yeah.
it, get rid of it, push
Yeah.
it. That's called isometric exercise.
Yes, it is.
And
You're
what
making both of those things stronger, aren't you?
exactly? And what's being made stronger other than the illusion that there is something to fear and that there is a me that has that fear? The
Mm-hmm.
illusion of it. Only an awareness of these things as we work and grow, and frankly, get tired of living with fear.
Mm-hmm.
We live with fear because it's fascinating to the nature that appears as the one who's afraid. Look how busy I am, how
Mm.
much I've got to do, how much there is to protect. I'm a busy man. Don't mess with me because I've got so much to do.
Right.
Well,
Right.
one day, you know what? I'm tired of being afraid. Somebody asked me once, how did I gain whatever wisdom one may attribute to myself? And the simple answer is it started when I was 12 years old. I got tired of the pain, but not tired in the sense of resisting it and hating the conditions. I got tired of my own explanations for it, even at that age.
Mm.
Because all pain does is justify itself.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. All pain, all fear does is justify itself. My God, who would listen to a nature explain to you why you should be afraid?
Mm.
Do you think the divine has fear? That God looks at a shadow or an event, a projection, and goes, oh, what do I do? What is true and divine understands that anything that appears for its purposes. And its purpose is the revelation of these parts of ourselves so that we can enter into the moments where the fear, the hatred, the worry is there and realize, okay, that nature has taken me as far as it can go and as far as I am willing to go, being told by it what to do.
Mm.
Then a change occurs because a certain amount of that light, which is what an event represents, a revelation, enters into that unconscious nature, and whatever touches what is dark with something that is light transfigures that consciousness instantaneously to whatever degree we're capable of remaining in that presence. That's where it takes time to
Mm.
learn how to consciously, intentionally suffer these parts of us that knee jerk jump up and want to kick everything out of the way.
Okay, I have and as you've been talking about this, I've been kind of applying it to something that I realize in myself that a dilemma that I have in myself that I'm not sure exactly how to deal with. All
Sure.
right, I have a fear. I love my son. He's college bound. Fear. Oh my gosh, he's not going to get into, a selective school and his whole life will be over. He won't have enough opportunities in his life. And so he needs to start, studying for the SATs and building his resume. I mean, piles and piles of fear,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And, I love him. And then there's a part of me, there's this higher part of me. It's like, just leave the kid alone. He's perfect as he is. He will be what he is, and he'll do what he does, irrespective of your interference in this. Just leave him alone.
Can I throw a little bomb out?
Yeah, go throw a bomb out.
Yeah. My son and all the things, really better get going with his SATs. Will he get in the right college? See, all of that seems to be my love for my son, but it isn't love for my son. It's love for myself.
I want to make sure
Because
I'm a good mom.
from a good mom, from a mom that wants others to think she's a good mom,
Hmm.
from a nature within mom that only knows what goodness is through comparing itself to what's called goodness in this society.
Hmm.
So the fact is that when we push somebody, it isn't because we love them. It's because we want them to be what we need them to be so we can be who we think we ought to be.
Hmm.
That's why we push people. And it's the
Hmm.
only reason we push people. And we always push them away because weakness will always bring up weakness in another person. And it's weakness to try to manipulate the life of another person. Now, that said, CJ, that doesn't mean that I don't say, you know what? You're living in my house. Go study. It doesn't mean that we just let, the laissez-faire relationship with people, because a lot of why we say, I'm going to let him go his own way, because I don't want to meet all the negativity that's going to come up in me when he starts saying, no, I want to do it my way. So
Hmm.
there's a very dynamic relationship
Yeah.
that requires awareness, where I start with being present to the parts of me that are in fact punishing me, but blaming it on the other person
Mm.
or hoping for the other person.
Right.
Only in that real dynamic awareness can I go to my son and say, without being afraid or negative, can we talk about your future? I'm not saying you should be perfect. God knows I'm not.
Hmm.
But I do know a few things. See, you know what? If our kids knew how much pain we're in that we never led on to, instead of being this pretend person that we want them to pretend to be,
Hmm.
my God, the child would have a new respect, because he would see, wow, you know what? This is a trip. She's saying stuff that I know is true about myself, instead of lying to me about stuff
Hmm.
I know isn't true
Yeah.
and wanting me to lie. Honey,
Hmm.
I'm a mess. But by God, I have learned this much. Let me tell you, then I'm not a phony. You know,
Hmm.
I'm not
Yeah.
trying to get something, I'm trying to give something.
Uh,
That's love.
yeah. But I don't know why I'm getting so emotional. Apologies.
There's no
Yeah.
apology. This,
Yeah.
CJ, this conversation is love.
Hmm.
We are agreeing to share
Right.
things about ourselves, moments of touching that which knows that any torment is wrong,
Hmm.
no matter how it's justified. So this is an act of revelation.
So how is it any different? So the difference that I'm noticing is that in the honey, you got to do blah 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 blah, right? Versus I'm going to share with you what I know. I'm not even saying, and I say this all the time to them, I don't even know if it's the right thing. In fact, I'm going to tell you these things, and I can tell you what the weird thing is about all of this, because I'll say, here's the thing for college, here's a game that you have to play, and here are the rules that you have to play by it. I don't even agree with some of these rules, but
Well, then, well, that,
I'm gonna tell you what they are anyways. Because in theory, I think if you follow these rules,
yeah,
you'll actually have more opportunities, and more opportunities is good. I think. I don't even know if that's true. I mean, I tell him these things, and I say I don't know. I mean, I
again,
can literally argue both sides.
that's it. And I would like for you and everybody to start being present to this battle between yes and no,
Hmm.
because the yes is based on an acquired conscience, and the no is based on the fear of not satisfying the acquired conscience. And this struggle between the opposites can either, go back and forth, which is what we do, justifying whatever position we find ourselves in, or we can use all of that energy to produce another order of our own understanding, and then meet life through that, where we are forever cognizant of the fact that anything I say to you, look, sweetheart, you'd be better off with a better education. Why? Because there will be opportunities in the world, should you want them, to find and make a better living for yourself. But on the other hand, sweetheart, I really can't tell you anymore what a better living is, because my better living has come with all this bitterness towards anyone that doesn't see it.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So You have to find your way, but I will be there for you. I will tell you when I know you're wrong. And I know you're wrong when you're negative. I know you're wrong when you're running. But that doesn't mean that in doing those things, you can't use the very actions to help you see that, just like I want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Can we learn? That's the name of my foundation,
Mm-hmm.
Life of Learning.
Mm-hmm.
Can we use this moment, whether we're together or when we're by ourselves, to instead of fostering the false foundation that ignorance is forever producing by justifying its actions, and build a real foundation based on a willingness to see the truth of ourselves as we are in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever we see that is true about ourselves, and incidentally, listeners, there is no such thing as a bad fact about yourself. No such thing. Anything in you that rejects something that you see about yourself is the nature that was revealed, getting you to identify with it so that it's not in the light.
Mm-hmm.
Can we use the moments to realize this timeless understanding, really love? Love is the source of all things. In the end, nothing was created or ever will be that doesn't begin from love. It is the end and the beginning. I am the Alpha and the Omega.
Mm-hmm.
But to begin to deepen that relationship, which is the purpose of our existence, life is not a race to win, but a school for our higher education.
Mm.
School of what? School of love. Not school of winning stuff. But if in winning stuff I see that I haven't won, then I die to that order of myself that was in love with pursuits, and a new order of me appears that will go through this again.
Mm. So, and it's interesting because you can extend the conversation we had to all conversations that you have with the loved ones that are challenging, right? All you can do, like, and what I heard you say is, you know, you shared your truth. You don't know whether your truth is right. You don't know whether your truth is better. You're just sharing your truth because you love someone and it may benefit them. Whether they follow it, whether they don't follow it, that's up to them.
Yes and no, CJ. Because, look, we should get this out of the way so we don't judge ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
No human being, even a murderer, is doing what he or she thinks is stupid. Nobody says, let me do the most stupid thing I can do.
Mm-hmm.
We always do the best we know how to do. But is the best I know how to do the best there is? No. The best I know how to do is the interaction, the relationship that is going to show me, I started telling him what I thought was best. And then right in the middle of it, I realized, I've been down that road. But if I actually say that didn't work, then I've got nowhere to go. I'm going to sit here and look stupid. Then eventually I know maybe the best I know how to do is to sit here and look stupid for a few minutes and no, honest to God, and wait. What a beautiful word, wait. And be patient. You know the meaning of the word patience? To suffer.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And to be patient, not knowing, so that instead of pretending to know, knowing will come to me. Why? Because it's already in me. But it never gets a chance to make me its instrument because I'm too busy sounding and tooting my own damn horn.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
So now I begin to have a different relationship with the moment. I'm
Mm-hmm.
patient in it. I don't let my fear, I don't let my worry, I don't let my ambition drive me to get you or anyone else to see life the way I want you to do it. I'm patient because if I am, I'll meet the driver. I'll see that part of myself. And if I see it, I won't be it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And when I cease to be it, that gives the divine, gives what is immortal a chance to say, well, now that you're not looking at yourself anymore the same way, look at this. And out will come the epiphany.
Oh,
Out will come the insight. I know
yeah.
you know this. I can see it in you.
Yeah. No. What I'm hearing is this, right? When I'm not even familiar is this, and when I
Yeah.
become like, wait a second,
Yeah.
what's that?
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
when they'll have the aha, where divine will come in, right?
That's perfect. That's exactly it.
Yeah,
And that's what the immortal journey is about. See, you said, and you did it perfectly. I know about this fear thing.
yeah,
What I don't know is that this part of me that doesn't want it is actually a part of this.
right.
Well, if I actually see both of these at the same time, I must be seeing them from something that is both and yet neither,
Mm-hmm.
that is in their world, but not of them.
Mm,
And now
mm,
I have touched something that lives above the opposites. And what lives above the opposites is essentially the love from out of which they have come, everything descending. Now I get a
mm,
chance to touch what is timeless, what is true, because I've been patient in the face of these unconscious adversaries, which is really one nature working
mm,
against itself.
mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. It's taken a recent dilemma that I've had, and hopefully other people can take their own dilemmas and apply this same thing because we have these every day,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And it's the relationships with other people that, like you say, going back to the beginning, help us. It's because I have this relationship with my son and have these fears and egos that, aha, like I recognize the immortal self that lies above it. Beautiful. I love how it all comes to a
Oh,
nice,
yeah. That's
complete
love.
end.
That's love, CJ.
This is fantastic. We've been talking to Guy Finley about his book, The Secret of Your Immortal Self. Thank you so much. That helped me in so many ways. I can't even believe I just started crying because it was just so
Can I
deep.
can I do one thing quickly?
Yes, yes.
On my foundation's website, I have a nonprofit organization.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to guyfinley.org/immortal,
Mm-hmm.
guyfinley.org/immortal, my foundation is offering a free 4-hour album MP3 download
Oh,
with the
wow.
book, a brand new audio product called the Golden Rule of Self-Realization, Golden Law of Self-Realization. So, uh, to kind of spice it up and encourage people to get this material, guyfinley.org/immortal, and you can get the book and the free album there.
Oh,
Of
wow.
course,
Okay, great.
it's guyfinley.org, www.guyfinley.org, if people want to know anything more about the work that I'm doing, CJ.
Great. And well, actually, you can go to firedupwithcj.com and I'll have links to all of
Perfect.
those things so people can
And
find them.
CJ, I think you need to come visit here.
I would love to come visit. You're in Oregon, so I'm close.
Yeah, you do. I talk 4 times a week to a group of students, nothing to join, nothing to pay, really, literally, just men and women just like you who want, as we all do, to become a different order of human being and who are starting to get little glimpses of another order of love.
Mm-hmm.
You'd
Mm.
like it here. And I extend that invitation to everybody.
No, it's just for me. I thought that was just for
Yeah.
me.
Forget the rest of you.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, folks, for listening. Make sure to get the book, The Secret of Your Immortal Self, and go to Guy Finley's website, guyfinley.org.
Org
O-R-G.
slash immortal.
Immortal. Thank you so much.
It was great, CJ.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. Would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.